I'd like to welcome you back. So today I have with me Miriam Schiffer. Although she's a very interesting woman overall, I'd like to focus specifically on this topic of the loss of a child. Now, when Zev passed away, I believe he was 48.
Yeah.
And, I once heard somebody say that the thing about loss is that you would assume that it's a terrible tragedy if a child passes away, a baby. But the truth is that the longer you know somebody, the closer you were. How did he pass away?
We're not really quite sure. We think it was a heart attack. He was, a friend was trying to reach him and couldn't reach him, and when they finally got to him, he had passed away. He wasn't feeling good the night before. I spoke to him, he said he wasn't doing well, he didn't feel good. I said, go across the street, there's a hospital right across the street from your house. He said, I don't know if I can. I said, call Hatzalah. But I live in Florida, in Boca Raton, and he was in Flatbush, where he was for 20 years in the same apartment. And I didn't expect that he was that sick, that he would have passed away. I imagined possibly that it was a heart attack. They said because the way he was holding his covers to his chest, like he was maybe in pain from his heart. So that's all.
Understood.
It's very hard not to know definitively. Hopefully he didn't suffer long, and I would have, but I believe it was a heart attack.
Right. Do you have guilt towards this? What sort of guilt?
Yes, tons of guilt, because he was troubled by a lot of different things, and I loved to talk to him, and he would talk, and he would talk things out. We have a lot of unfinished conversations, and I find that the hardest thing is not to be able to settle some things that we were talking about. But he was always respectful to me. He always was worried about me, and he always ended every conversation with you, I love you, Mama. And he was a very loving boy.
You have a harder time with the guilt of what you could have done and should have done than with the enjoyment of basking in the fact that you were his angel.
Well, I do have a lot of pain, because I think that I have a Midwestern certain type of attitude toward raising children, not overindulging them, not wanting them to be spoiled, which they weren't, which we didn't have that type of monies. But I never took him on a trip or things like that, because we had another sick child in the house. Not that he was a sick child, he was a very strong child, a very robust boy. But we did have a sick child, and all the other children really doted on that child. And that child got the main part of the attention from everybody. So it's not like we could have just gone anywhere. He was on IVs and different things. But yeah, I miss my son terribly. And it makes me happy that my husband is finally reaching out about Zev and seeing who Zev was. He's a second generation Holocaust survivor's child. And it's a very different way of raising children than I tried to raise mine. And we had a blended family. We each came with 3. And then we had Nusi, we had our little boy. So it was a challenge, and it's still a challenge to some extent.
Your second marriage?
The second marriage, we're married almost 41 years. It's a long time, thank God, yeah. And you go through different things in life, but thank God I have a supportive husband who's loving and very good to me. And I'm grateful that I was lucky enough to be able to have a good marriage. And Zev was my first love. He was such a doting son. And he was a doting person in general. He really, like people say, heart of gold. He did have a heart of gold. He was a good person.
I heard you mention gratitude. I was wondering how you cope. Is gratitude the extent of it? Is this one of the weapons in your arsenal? How do you handle with
how
such?
I live every day because I couldn't, if I would just dwell on the losses of my sons, and my husband lost his kidney, and we've been going through dialysis, but God willing, he's going to be getting a kidney, and we're very, very excited through a renewal, which is really an incredible organization. And what were you talking about? I lost it.
How do you cope?
Oh, how do I cope? I cope because 2 nights ago I just had another great grandchild in Eretz Israel.
Wonderful.
I'm very, very excited about that, and about all my great grandchildren and my grandchildren. I'm so grateful for that, and that I'm healthy, and that I have a good life in Florida with my husband. I mean, I have a lot of things to be grateful, and that's the truth. Every day is a big thing for me.
Do you feel that as a result of a loss like this, that you live more in the moment, you live more for the day? You
I think that has to do with years of getting older.
Okay.
Once you get older, the time goes so fast, and the days go so fast, and you realize getting near the edge of the cliff,
Nah.
and you really, really want to get as much as you can out of it, except that your body slows down. Like my body's slowing down a little bit, and it's like a little harder.
How do you envision where he is? I know you hear a lot of different people
Yes,
talking
yes.
about their perspective. What's
Somebody
your picture?
said to me something that really hit me, and I would love it to be like that. They said that dying is only turning a knob and going through a door. It's just going through a door, and it's into another plane, and everybody's there. And I would love to think that everybody's there, and that he's seeing my parents and his brother and different people, and that he's happy, and that would be a beautiful thing.
How has the pain changed you? I mean, I know that when we first spoke, when you first passed, you were in a mess. You were trying to make sense of things and sort out your mind.
Very hard not to know for sure how things happen. And for me, that was a very big blow. That there was, that nobody broke down the door right away to check him out. Maybe they could have saved him.
He was found in his apartment.
Yes.
After a day or two.
Yeah. And I know he loved life.
Yes.
I once said to him, would you never commit suicide, would you? And he said, no, Ma, I love my life. I love my life. And he did.
Yes.
And he was always upbeat, positive, and this is where we're supposed to be right now. He was the most spiritual person I think I ever met.
Yeah.
And he was very much like my father, who wasn't even from
Religious.
But yeah, he wasn't religious. I mean, he was quite Jewish, but he he was just a happy people person. And
That he was.
that was a real people person. And when people come over to me and they say how much they loved him and how much he meant to them and how much he did for them, it's very, very special for me.
And it's all true.
It's all true.
If somebody were to experience loss, let's say, God forbid, they were to lose a baby, or let's say later on in life they were to lose an older child, or whatever it is, given what you've been through for the last 2 years, what would you now give as your knee-jerk advice to a person to try to comfort them?
Well, I think it's really hard when people mean well, and they try to say good things and make you feel better, but sometimes you need a little to step back and just have a little bit of time to think for yourself, and not have to always answer the questions that people want to know. They want to know these details or that details, and you're not up to it, and that you should be able to voice that in a nice way. Not now, I'm not able to. I mean, the truth is, I used to teach Lamaze. I'm a nurse, and I did have women who had stillborns, and I did have women who lost, children, and it's horrible. It's horrible because it's like takes you suddenly into a different realm of your life. But just that people have to realize that you just need time to heal, and you have to be able to stick up for yourself. I always wanted to be, I did have my depression. I mean, I'm a normal mother would be. I missed him. I still miss him every day. Everything reminds me of him. I see something that he would have liked, or he would appreciate it, or I want to call him on the phone and I want to discuss something, politics or something with him, he was a good trumper like I am.
Oh, he loved politics.
He loved politics, and he was very passionate about everything. And most people don't have that passion, and I miss it. I miss him. I miss him. I miss telling him how much I love him. He's my son, and he could do no wrong, and he was a great guy, and I miss him. But you have to be able to not always open the door and not always pick up the phone. I'm the type who can smile. If I have to smile, and I'll cry when I cry, but I don't like to do it publicly.
Understood.
I mean, I spoke to you. I cried a lot on the phone because you were close to him and you knew what I was talking about. You need somebody who really can understand what you're feeling. And you were that, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And,
all right, thank you so much
you're
for
welcome.
expressing.
I don't know if you'll be able to use this thing.
Oh, of course we will. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much.